Alright guys, so I'm going to go ahead and give you a little mini review of the HTC U12 Plus, and this is the front camera of the HTC U12 Plus. Let's kick this video off. Alright guys, welcome back to another video. It's your man Jay Will. So this is the HTC U12 Plus, and this is an HDR10 video. This is playing at 1440p at 60 frames per second HDR. Watching this over video will never be as good as it is in person. It's just impossible to show you this almost like this. It's absolutely stunning footage. Now, the screen on this thing is HDR10 compliant, which is why I can watch those videos in HDR at 60 frames per second in 1440p. So the screen on this thing is what you see when you first power it on. It is absolutely great. This is a good size for a phone, and here's my Zenfone 5. This has a 6.2 inch, but this is a more slender phone, and it's slender like the Note 8 slender. That's the kind of slender it is, and it actually feels really good. Again, drawbacks with this is only that, you know, it's a very slippery phone. The body is very slippery, but when talking about the screen, we have to talk about the body of the phone. Now, along this back side here, you've got this wide-angle lens. You've got the dual camera setup here. You got the LED flash, the laser autofocus, the microphone, the fingerprint reader, and this is that translucent blue color. And you know, you've got a microphone down here. Audio on this thing is absolutely great. It's a premium built phone. However, you know, I think saying that only glass is premium is getting a little old now, because there are a lot of metal phones out there, or aluminum phones, I'm sorry, that feel better than this glass. And that's kind of going to be a preference there. Some people are going to say that aluminum feels better. Some people are going to say that glass feels better. I personally like the aluminum, the cold feel of aluminum or aluminium, depending on where you're at, in my hand on a smartphone. You know, the size of this phone may have that premium metal chassis, but they don't feel that as premium as this phone on the sides. But that's just an example. You know, this phone definitely is a very good feeling phone in the hand. Super slim, body's good, the design is good. I like it a lot, and the screen is absolutely awesome. Now, talking about the build quality, these buttons on the side, to my understanding, they don't actually move. It's going to be a different feel for some people. It's going to be, it's like the trackpad on my MacBook Pro. You think it's moving, but it's really not moving. And the same thing with my trackpad too. You think it's moving, but it's not really moving. It's just the technology that's there to make it feel like it's giving you that sensation of vibration. And that's weird on a phone. I'm not going to front. It's weird having it as your volume rocker and power button. It's super weird, but you can get used to it. And I've had this phone in hand probably for going on a couple of weeks now, and it's possible to get used to it. So just take note of that. It's not a good or a bad thing. It's about how you respond to that sensation when you press those buttons. That's what it is. Now, I talked about battery life in another video, and some people said, oh, you know, it's not that it has great battery life. It's just the standby time is pretty good, you know, or you didn't use the phone a lot. I did use the phone a lot. I think a lot of you guys might think of it as, oh, he only got 4 hours. Some people say you did 2 hours a day. I was on the phone the entire time. I just didn't use it in a 2-hour spurt or a 3-hour spurt. You know, I used it maybe for 30 minutes at a time, or 15 minutes here, 20 minutes here. I was always on the phone. And again, battery life is going to depend on you, the user. But being able to use this phone for the entire weekend and not have to charge, and I did use it for the entire weekend, it's always going to be a great thing. I could very well sit down and watch a bunch of content on this phone until the battery dies, which is the way some people review batteries, which is, to me, is wrong, because you don't do that in your everyday life. You don't sit and hold your phone until the battery dies and then say, oh, I got 12 hours of screen on time, but it was only off the charger for 16 hours. That's not realistic. You use your phone how you're going to use your phone, and you just use it until it starts to get low, and then you plug it up. I don't know very many people that sit and hold their phone and just drain the battery all the way down just to say that they got 10 hours of screen on time. When I have a phone that I'm reviewing and I'm testing the battery, I'm not just trying to kill the battery by watching YouTube or just keeping the screen on. I'm using it regularly. So those times on those phones where I got 9 hours of screen on time, or I got 8 hours of screen on time, or 7 hours of screen on time, that was just me using the phone regularly, doing whatever I was doing, and it just happened to die, and I just happened to get all of that screen on time. But this phone right here has great battery life, and I couple it with HTC Sense, the Snapdragon 845, the way this phone is put together, just the entire package. That is why a lot of iPhones get great battery life, is because it's built around that hardware, and it just couples up so well with iOS. And with this phone, I think this is one of the better skins out there for Android, if you're going to have a skin, because this isn't really a skin. It's super lightweight, and there's just a few things added in there from HTC. But with that being said, battery life on this thing for me has been fantastic. I mean, absolutely no complaints on this thing. It literally can last me. Now, have I gotten every 3 days or 2.5 days every time? Of course not. That happened several times, but excuse me, it doesn't happen every time. Man, excuse me. There are times, obviously, where I'm getting much higher screen on time, but the phone, on that usage cycle, I used the phone I was out and about more, waiting at the doctor's office or waiting at the grocery store, waiting in the car. So I said, okay, I'm going to watch videos. I'm going to watch Netflix. I'm getting way more screen on time, upwards of 6.5 hours, maybe a little bit more, almost 7. That can happen, but the phone isn't lasting 2.5 days. More like a day, or just over a day, or a day and a half. It's just going to be so many factors that give you your battery life. You have to understand that. So when people start to argue about battery life not being something for another person, you're wasting your time and you're wasting your breath, because you cannot tell a person how they're using their phone or what they should do to get better battery life. We all have pretty much different apps or different number of apps. And I have an advantage over some of you guys. You want to know what that advantage is? I don't use Facebook. Facebook is one of the first of all, Facebook is stupid to me, but Facebook is one of the heaviest resource users that you can put on your smartphone. That's why this phone right here came with, this one came with Facebook Lite. You know why it came with Facebook Lite? Because that phone only has 1 gig of RAM. This phone has 1 gig of RAM, and so Facebook would kill that phone. It would eat up all the resources. So those of you using Facebook, I got that jump on you for battery life, because resources used by Facebook is heavy, and they're giving all your information away too. So I definitely don't like Facebook. But your battery life is going to be determined on how you're using your phone, what you have on your phone. There's just way too many things. Your climate. I'm in a very hot climate too, so where I live at is extremely hot, so that plays a part too. If you're in a cooler area, you might get great battery life. Who knows? But nonetheless, my experience with the battery on this phone, fantastic. Now, the phone doesn't have a headphone jack. Now, some people might be deterred by that. I'm not deterred by that, because you get these great, what's called U-Sonic headphones. And the U-Sonic headphones is some of the best headphones I've ever used. I actually use those headphones on other devices. On other devices, I use them to have Type-C that don't have a headphone. It works with some. It works with the majority of the phones that I've tested them on, but it doesn't work with some phones. So that's just what it is. But the stereo speakers on here, they're loud. They're not the loudest and most powerful speakers I've ever had. I really wish that they would go back to, I personally think they could have just put a grill down here, and this would have been fantastic. Would have been great. But, they have sensors or, things down there that they need to hide. And so the speaker's on the bottom, and then the other speaker comes out at the top there. So it's not the most ground-breaking set of speakers, but the fact that you have some kind of stereo speaker sound is fantastic. And you just can't go wrong with that. The boom sound is booming when it does boom. Peak volume, you'll be impressed. Very little distortion, if any. Yeah. So the cameras on this thing, sorry about that. The cameras on this thing, well, first I want to touch on the software. I kind of talked about the software a little bit. As you can see, I don't have very many. I have about 110 apps on nearly all my phones, because I only put things on here that I'm actually going to use. And then sometimes when I have phones on apps on here, I'll take them off until I'm actually going to use them. Like my flight information on some phones, I keep all of all the different flights in a folder for travel. But if you notice on this phone, I don't have a travel folder because I'm not traveling right now. So I'll delete them. If I don't, I definitely would tell you to delete apps that you're not using. Like if you're not going to use them for a while, delete them. Don't keep them on your phone. Just sign back in after you need to use them again, and you'll be fine. I definitely recommend you do that. But that's a personal choice that you should make on your own. I can't tell you what to do, but I would definitely say delete apps that you're just not using. It's totally, you need to save that memory. But now let's get to the software. Back to the cameras, because the software on here is just great. It's like one of the best setups you can possibly get if you want as close to stock as possible. If you don't want to buy a Nexus or a Pixel or any stock Android phone, this is almost as good as it gets. It's fantastic. Now the cameras on here have been tested multiple times, and I've posted several photos on Instagram and Twitter and all these different places. And what can I say? The cameras are just great. I don't need to spend a lot of time on the cameras, but the cameras on this phone, some people are going to tell me that they have the highest DxO mark. Again, personally, I don't care about that. What I care about is how well they perform, and they absolutely perform fantastic. That's all I got to say about that. So a little mini review after a couple of weeks or so with this phone. I think this is a winner. I mean, with the exception of how slippery it is, some camera issues I've had. I posted another video. I had problems with the camera overheating and stuff like that. And some people said, oh, well, just because you're recording in 4K at 60 FPS. No, it's not because I'm recording in 4K at 60 FPS. Because I was actually recording just regular old 1080p at 30 frames per second when it happened multiple times. So it could be a software bug. It could be a hardware bug. All you experts are going to come out and say, oh, it's this. You guys don't really know, man. Unless you work for HTC and you're building these phones, it's mind-blowing. All the experts that come out and speak with so much fact, they're just so right in what they're saying. And you have no clue, man. You don't know why my phone is. Some people say you have a defective phone. You don't know, guys. This is man-made, so there's going to be problems with it. Anything a man makes, there's going to be issues with it. It can't be flawless. It's just how it is. Something's going to break, or something's not going to function as it should. The heating issue, it happens when it happens, and that's just what it is. Other than the slipperiness, the heating issue, I don't really have too big of a problem with the phone. I think it's actually probably one of the top phones. If not a lot of phones come out a lot of phones are coming out and they're looking like this at the top. They're looking like that. And the 6.2 inch display, you're going to see a lot of stuff like that, So I'm glad that HTC kept it 100 and didn't go that route. And they're just doing them. They slimmed the bezels down because that's what you guys wanted. And, they put 4 cameras on here. That's what you guys wanted. I guess you guys wanted that. But they're just staying in the other lane, and that's why they're winning in a lot of areas. These cameras are great. The battery is great. There's a lot of great things about this phone. Some people don't like the price. This is what they're charging. I personally think there's going to be a bunch of promos that come out. You'll be able to grab it for $100 off, $150 off. It happens all the time. So be patient, or grab you one right now, because I think you'll enjoy greatness. It's your man, J. Will. Thanks for sticking around. See you in the next one.